Hello, welcome to NPTEL's course on communication skills. Already we have talked about communication skills as a very necessary component in terms of leading a very successful and effective business life, professional life and a personal life. Now, in this lecture, what I am going to do is to divide the writing part of communication. If you remember, already I have discussed communication skills in terms of reading, speaking, listening and writing skills. Now, in this module, we will be focusing on one aspect of writing, that is letter writing, and we will also do one more thing, that is this letter writing itself will be divided into two lectures. In the first lecture, I will talk about the need, the structure and the way in which we have to write a business letter, and in the second lecture, which is a sequential letter to this, I will be discussing about job application letter and how we can write a cover letter along with the biodata. Now, in this first part of this module, writing, first I will talk about business letter writing. Now, when I talk about business letter writing, first of all, what comes to your mind is, why do we need this? Now, before I explain why do we need this business letter writing as a very important part of communication skills, I would like to tell you that in this lecture, you will learn and understand, first of all, the need for writing effective letters, and then the elements of a business letter. You will be surprised to know that there are about 13 elements of a business letter. This will be followed by 3 basic layouts, like you do not know what kind of layout, the skeleton that you will have while structuring your business letter, and then I will talk about the various elements in detail. So, overall you will be learning and understanding the need for writing effective letters, elements of a business letter, 3 basic layouts and then elements of a business letter in detail. Now, as I said, the first question that arises in our mind is, why do we need to write business letter? Because we are living in an internet age, we are living in the age of satellite communication, and we are communicating sometimes at the speed of lightning. Now, when we are doing this, should we really go to this old mode of writing this letter? Is it really required? So, this is the fundamental question that arises in our mind, that do we really need business letters in the internet era? Now, I would say certainly yes, we definitely need to know, to understand the complexities of writing a business letter in an internet era. Despite the fact that communication has improved so much, we are able to communicate the same idea through email or SMS, but then why do we need this? Now, the first and foremost thing is, as I had explained in some of the earlier lectures, when we talk about writing, there are the formal aspects of writing and then there are the informal aspects of writing. Now, under informal aspects of writing, we have again types of letters. For instance, the letter that is written to our friend is a very informal and personal kind of writing, letter writing. But when we are writing a similar letter to a professional in a business kind of environment, then we cannot afford to write in a very informal manner. We need to learn certain etiquette of writing a business letter. Now, in that case, first and foremost thing is, we need to know what is formal writing, and under formal writing we understand that letter writing in a business environment comes under the formal category. Now, when I say formal, It also means that it could be used in terms of writing for recording purpose. Now, what do I mean by recording purpose? When you send email or SMS, for instance, what happens is it has no life, it has no validity. So, people may store it in the form of soft copy, it can be taken in the form of printed one, but then one can always say that it is doctored, it is sent through some other source, it is sent through an ID that does not belong to me. But when it is a business letter, it is written in a proper manner, and when it is signed by the particular dignitary, no one can say that, or no one can say or escape from the fact that it can be recorded and stored for future use. Now, some of the letters will have legal validity, so it can be stored even for about 50 years, a simple letter. So, when you understand the gravity of keeping this for years to come, and if you remember some of the highly professional letters or sometimes even kept confidential, letters written by presidents, and then when they are opened for the public after maybe 50 years, 100 years, sometimes they are kept in archives, sometimes they are kept in museums, and then if when they are sold out, so they even earn millions of dollars. So, you can understand the gravity, the significance of writing a formal letter where it is used for recording purpose, storage purpose, and then for retrieving and using it, referring it for a later purpose. Now, in terms of using it in a business sense, it also gives you this professional outlook. Now, what do I mean by professional outlook? Each letter reflects a personality, okay. It has a character, whether it is a personal letter or it is a professional letter. When a letter is written as somebody defined it, it is a piece of conversation by post, just like the way we are talking to each other, but the only difference is it is done in a very formal manner, and when it is done in a formal manner following lot of etiquette and principles of business writing, it has this personality. Now, when it has this personality, what happens? It gives a professional outlook. Now, when it gives a professional outlook, what happens then? It generates, it builds up the goodwill of the organization. It also helps in building up the reputation of that organization. Sometimes, just like the way we say that tell me your friend, I will tell who you are, we can also tell show me the letterhead of your organization, show me the letter of your company, and we can always say that I will tell you what kind of organization is that one. So, so much so about the significance of business letters, and then even in this internet era, I am emphasizing again and again that there is great need for writing a very good professional business letter. Now, once we agree that yeah, it is really important that we should write it. Now, what are the steps? How do we go about writing this? As I said at the outset, there are about 13 elements of a business letter, and one will be surprised to know that all the time we are just writing the salutation, dear sir, and then we are writing something like sincerely, and then there is body, and most of the times that we are under the impression that there are just 3 elements or so. Now, when I say that there are 13 elements, some of the elements have become outmoded, but it is quite interesting and it is equally important to know what are these elements and then how we can use in a very professional environment. Let us look at the basic ones first. It starts with the heading. So, sometimes we nowadays look at the letterhead, which is also the heading. When the letterhead is not there, so then we have to create that heading. Then it is followed by date, and the third element is inside address. While heading has the sender's address, inside address is going to the receiver. This is again followed by reference. Now, I will tell in detail about all these elements just in the next few slides. Right now you look at this reference, this is followed by subject. Now, subject will briefly tell about what is the topic, what is the gist of the letter, followed by attention line. This calls for the attention of that particular person to whom the letter should reach, so that he can respond to you quickly, followed by salutation, that is the informal greeting like dear sir, etc. And then the most important part is the body of the letter, which again, as I said, we will be talking in terms of three parts, three components of the body of the letter. Next, followed by complementary clause, that is a very pleasant way of saying something before concluding, and then followed by the most important part, signature, which is very important in professional communication, and then followed by identification marks. Now, I had slightly, if you look at it, I had actually slightly put it in a different ink to show that these are the optional kind of elements, whereas the dark ones, if you look at it, heading, date, inside address, salutation, body, complementary clause, signature, these are the most important elements. A letter can survive without, for instance, reference, sometimes the subject which is given as the form of topic at the outset, or attention line, or even identification marks, and then enclosure. Depending on whether you are going to attach a document or not, a letter can survive, but then it cannot survive without certain other things which I had actually darkened it. Now, this is followed by copy notation. I will explain what is copy notation very soon, and then I will also tell you that it has become redundant these days. We need not even use it in business communication. Now, before we get into the details of the elements of a business letter, how do we present the letter? Let us look at the layout. The layout tells you as how nicely you can present all the elements, what kind of format you will have. Now, if you look at it in the standard format, the heading comes in the middle, just like here, and then the date is on the right side, and this is followed by inside address, which is again on the left side. This again is followed by reference, subject. Now, there are minor modifications between these two. Some people would like to keep the subject on the top and keep reference at a later stage, followed by attention line. Again, as I said, it is an optional one, it can be removed also, but look at the way it is being arranged. The heading is centered, it is on the middle, and then if you look at it, the date is on the right side, and then if you look at the inside address and reference and subject and attention line, all are coming towards the left, and then salutation is again on the left. Then if you look at body, this is again on the left. Then when you come to the complementary clause, such as yours sincerely, yours faithfully, it is again coming to the right side. So, this is again following the date on the right side. Now, after the complementary clause, signature is just following the complementary clause, again it is on the right side. Now, when it comes to identification marks, again it comes to the left side, and then enclosure is again on the left side, the copy notation is again on the left side. So, overall if you look at the standard format of a business letter, so the heading is centered, date, complementary clause, signature is on the right side, and rest of the other elements are on the left side. Now, this is the standard format. Nowadays, you will find the other kind of format. There are two more formats. Now, before we go to that, let us quickly look at the way this will look. Now, if you look at it, heading, date, inside address, reference, subject, attention line, salutation, body, complementary clause, and then signature, and then identification marks, followed by enclosure, and if at all there are some other signs which follows the enclosure, otherwise it is just like the standard format. Now, look at the next kind of layout, which is called as the right aligned layout. the right aligned one, as against the standard one, which is actually a mixture of the right aligned, left aligned and the middle centered one. Now, in the right aligned one, if you look at it, all the elements of a business letter is arranged on the right side. So, as the title itself is self explanatory, it tells very clearly that if you align everything on the right side, it follows this right aligned method. Now, in this case, if you look at it, everything comes to the right side. Now, this is very easy to do today using this Word document and all that. You just have to use the right aligned option. So, it automatically goes to the right side. Now, how will it look in terms of the detailed layout? If you look at it, it will be looking at it looks like this. I am just showing the skeleton layout of the right sided format ended by enclosure. Now, what about the third one? The third format is the left aligned format, which perhaps is the most popular one these days. Reason being the popularity of email on the one hand, on the other hand it is very easy to type. Now, what happens when it is the standard one? You need to indent, you need to push, you need to center certain things. In left aligned one, look at this. So, everything, heading, date, the inside address, reference, subject, attention line, salutation, body, complementary clause, signature, identification marks, enclosure, everything comes on the left side. That is why it is called as left aligned. Once again, as I said, it is quite popular because of the reason that email, when you type it, you do not have to do anything in terms of typing, pressing the tab to push it or indenting to take it to the center. So, these things are not required, it is very easy to type, and people also feel that it is quite simple, and then you can see all at one go. And this is again quite popular in American style of letter writing. The British style would still follow the standard one that I suggested at the beginning. Now, these three are there. Now, which one to choose from? As I said, the popular one is left aligned, and most of the multinational corporations are aligned towards this left aligned one, but the conservative, the standard ones would still like to follow the standard format where heading is in the middle and the date and complementary clause and signature comes on the right and rest of the things are on the left. So, keep this in mind if you are sending a letter to a conservative background. So, go for the normal standard one. If you think that you have already got a letter where it is left aligned, so it is very safe to send it in left aligned format. Now, having looked out at these three layouts, now the next step is to know what are the elements, what will you put under these layouts, and let us look at the elements in detail. And before we look at it, just a quick look at how the left sided format will look in terms of the skeleton structure. It will be looking like this. Now, look at the elements of a business letter in detail. First, heading. Now, when we talk about heading, when you go for a company's letterhead or company's letter pad, so we call it as the letterhead, where the heading is already printed. Now, what will it do? It will show the sender, organization's name, full address, telephone, fax numbers and email ID and any other details related to the company. Sometimes it will keep the logo of the company, sometimes it may keep nowadays all the important mobile numbers and so on. There are companies that will put their website also in this space. Now, this is followed by fax number also and email ID. Now, you can look at the sample. So, this is the title of the company, High Tech Graphics. the address is given, Circular Road, Bangalore, etc., and then the motto of the company is given. Sometimes the logo will come on this side, phone number, sometimes mobile numbers are added, fax numbers are there, email, sometimes website is also added to this, but the details are already in printed form, and that is why we call this as letterhead. This is already on the heading part of the letter pad that is made by the company, and it is available in a ready made form for using it by the employees. Now, let us look at heading when a letterhead paper is not used. Now, what do you do when a letterhead is not used? You either align with the left or the right margin the heading, depending on the layout that you are going to follow. You can either keep the heading on the left side or on the right side. It is not kept in the middle, whereas in the letterhead it is kept in the middle. Now, here it is either on the left or on the right depending on the format, but the details are same. All the details that you want to give it, you can give it here in terms of your company. Now, look at this, this is aligned with the right margin. So, completely it is aligned here on the right side. So, that is why I say that it is aligned on the right margin. Now, another question comes, like at the introductory lecture I was referring to the use of punctuation. Nowadays, again because of email communication, punctuation has been done away with. Most of the times people type without punctuation. Now, in a professional environment, can one really afford to do that? Certainly no. Reason, there are various components not only in the address, but in the inside matter where you need to distinguish by use of punctuation marks. Now, the conservative, the professional business group would still follow the full punctuation. Okay. The whole letter can use full punctuation. What do I mean by full punctuation? In this case, if you look at here, I had highlighted the comma, okay, in different color. If you look at it, there is comma, comma, and there is also another comma inside. Now, when you use something inside, it can be just called internal punctuation. When you use it outside as well, comma, comma and full stop, even this hyphen in between. Now, all these punctuation marks are indicating that it is complete, it is full punctuation. This letter writer has decided to use full punctuation. Now, somebody would like to show style, vary in terms of using different kind of punctuation. So, the person would like to use punctuation just in the functional sense of using a punctuation. So, what the person would do, he would rather think, why would I have it on the end of it when it is very clear that it is on the next line. So, he may feel, let me use only the internal ones where it clearly distinguishes the various components. So, if you look at here, it is distinguishing the number from the road. Now, when it is used only inside and in a functional sense, it is called as internal punctuation. Now, is there anything such as no punctuation? Yes, as I said at the beginning, email, most of the times people do not use any punctuation mark at all. SMS text often is sent without any punctuation mark. Now, when you do not use it, even professionally nowadays it is being accepted. Although I said that conservative environment, people will still expect that you use comma and all that, but if you do not use a punctuation, at least distinguish that with space. This is very important. Look at this, 613, comma is not there, but then you cannot miss this space. Now, Bangalore again, space is there, hyphen is not there, and so on. All the numbers are clearly distinguished, all the components are clearly distinguished in terms of space. So, you can avoid using punctuation, you if you think that I do not want to use punctuation at all, that is fine, but at least show the distinguished categories in terms of giving space. So, this is important, you should bear in mind. Now, the next element that we need to know in detail is date. Now, again what is in a date, people will think, and most of the times people even forget to write the date. Now, in a professional environment, date is very important, because as I said, it is used for recording purpose and it can be referred to at a later stage. So, date is very important. Now, once we accept that it is important, how do we use the date? How do we mention it? Now, generally you should type the date directly below the heading address. Now, if the heading is in the middle or on the left, wherever it is, you should directly type it below the heading address. You can take it to right if it is the normal one, you can take it to the left if it is the left sided format. Now, the day, the month and the year are in the upper right hand corner. Now, let us look at some example, then it becomes clear. Look at this, 25 July 2011. Now, this is on the upper right corner and this is clearly the differentiated by use of a comma, 25 July comma 2011. This is one way of writing the date. Another way of writing the date where you do not follow any punctuation at all, you can even remove the comma and simply write 25 July 2011. This is also absolutely fine. And then you can also follow the American way of writing month first and then the day and then the year. So, when you write the month first followed by the date and then again there is a comma. Now, in this format again comma is very important. If you leave it, at least sufficient space should be there to distinguish the date from the year clearly, the day from the year. Generally comma is used to avoid any kind of confusion. Now, while all these three format or ways of writing the date is universally acceptable, it is better to avoid certain way of writing date. For instance, look at this. So, it is 7/8/2009. Now, you will find that it is quite normal to write date in this way, but why do I say that in a professional environment it is not advisable to write like this? The reason being, there are two ways in which internationally people are following the writing of date. Now, the Britishers would write month in the middle, just like the way we Indians are also writing. So, we write the day first, then the month and then the year. Now, whereas Americans, if you find any letter from the Americans, they are habituated to write the month first and then the date comes and then the year. Now, again what is the problem with 7/8 or 9/11/2011? What is the problem? Now, you can understand, if it is British, you will read this 7 as 7 and 8 as month, August. So, in British format this is 7th of August. Now, in American format 7 will be treated as the month, this will be considered as July and this becomes 8th of July. Now, if you look at this, in British format 9 is the day, 11 September. So, 9th of September. Now, in American format it is the reverse. So, 9th of November will become, in the American format, first 9 will be September and then 11 will be the date. So, in order to avoid this confusion, it is better suggested that follow any one of these formats which are given here: 25th July 2011, 25th July without comma 2011, or July 25 add a comma and 2011. In all the cases, month is written in the word form. So, try to follow this form, so it makes it clearer. Now, let us go to the next element, that is the inside address. What do we mean by the inside address? It is actually the receiver's address. Now, in the receiver's address, what are the major parts that you should note? Now, look at the way you begin the inside address. Look at these two addresses that I have put here. The first one, it is the designation, the general manager, the deputy director. Now, in designations, so we are not using any title. Now, if you look at the second one, it is the name of a person. When you are referring to the name of a person, the title, that is MS standing for Ms. or Mrs., or in case of a male, Mr. Now, the title should be here. In case of a doctor, in case of a professor, prof. So, the title should be here, so that it clearly gives respect to the person to whom you are addressing. Now, in the previous case, since it is the designation, you need not add the title. So, suppose you write Mr. the general manager, it looks very absurd and awkward. It is required here when the name is there. What else you need to know in terms of inside address? Now, when you write this, sometimes people even write it or type it and then they follow the so called ladder style. What is meant by ladder style? Look at this. First it is typed as the general manager, and then followed by this, the company's name, so much space is given, and then this is followed by the next one, the street name and then the number. Now, if you see the way it is being arranged, that gives it a kind of ladder look, okay, as if one can climb on the ladder. Now, those days people are thinking that this is looking stylish, and some people sometimes even follow this, but then this ladder style does not create any business professional impression. It is not considered as a standard way of writing the address. So, you have to avoid this ladder style format when you are giving inside address. Then I just briefly mentioned about titles. Now, know more about the titles, and you may again think what is there in title, because title itself can again create your personality. It can show that you are a caring person, it can show that you are a respectful person, it can show that you are sincere, faithful, it can show that you are very meticulous to detail. Look at this, there are various titles: Mr., Shri. So, Shri short for Shriman. You also have Mrs. referring to a married person. The Indian equivalent is Shrimati, again short one we have abbreviated to SMT dot. Miss indicating a unmarried woman. Kumari, again unmarried woman in Indian context, again it could be abbreviated to KUM dot, and then Ms, a neutral position, neither indicating whether the person is married or unmarried, but it is just giving a honorary title. Doctor, captain, professor. Now, all are titles, and depending on the person you need to use. Now, suppose it is a firm, It is a very big organization, and then it is run by 2-3 brothers or in the name of a person who has other partners, then Messrs. Okay, the plural form of Mr. is used if it is a firm. So, again it is Messrs. Lal Chand and Sons, because there are many male partners in the business, but you can look at this. If you note this, there is no need to write Messrs. here when it is referring just to the name of the company, like Bharat Aluminium Limited, you need not use Messrs. here. Whereas, in case of a married woman and she is a professor, it is better that you use the title professor as well as within bracket you indicate the status of the person. Then look at the next one. You are not sure whether the person is married or not. So, then it is better to put MS, indicating that the person is, you are not sure whether the person is married or not, and then you are just indicating with the respect MS. As I said, it is indicating Ms. It is pronounced that way. Now, just very quickly to talk about the use of to. Should you use to or not? Now, to is used if the address is very brief. Look at this, to the director IIT Kanpur, Kanpur, only 3 lines. Now, in this case you can use it. Now, if the address is going to be 5-6 lines, it is better that you avoid this if it is too long, and do not use any comma after to. One of the silliest mistakes that you can do is putting a comma after to. Now, in fact, as a teacher, when we correct the letters by letters written by students, when we see this comma, we reduce so many marks just for this. So, take note of this, but if at all you want to use any punctuation mark in a business context, you can use a colon instead of this. So, keep this in mind. To is used only if it is important and only when it is brief, otherwise it can be dropped. The next important element of a business letter is reference. This will be followed by subject also. So, reference and subject contribute to the next important aspect of a business letter. Now, what do we mean by reference? Generally, when a letter is written, for instance, if you are referring to something based on which you have written the letter, then it becomes the reference. Look at this, refer. Now, this is a reference used in a job application. Your advertisement dated, so some date is mentioned here in the Times of India. Now, this is a reference. So, you are referring to this date and this particular advertisement. So, you are mentioning it here. Now, in a company, for instance, they may be sometimes giving a number particularly. So, in that case you will write your reference letter number AB 46 P494 of August 24, 2010. So, this number is given by the company. So, that is also used. Now, sometimes again in professional firms, the other company or the other person who is writing the professional letter will be giving his reference. So, that is called as our reference, the reference that is given by the company that is sending the letter. So, that is our reference. Again it will follow the same kind of format. It has a number and it has a date. Then this is followed by subject. In some cases again there is a minor variation. Some people would like to give subject at the top and give reference after the subject. Now, in this case when the subject is given, what does it mean? If you can sum up the whole body of the letter in just 3 words or at the most in a single sentence, or at the most you make it a topical sentence, so that becomes your subject. Now, what is the subject of this one? Order of packing boxes. So, this is a order and this is about the order that is made in terms of buying some packing boxes. Now, inside letter will tell how many are required, what will be the rate, and what time it should be sent and all that, but right now on the top the subject simply says the order and then it is referring to what is to be ordered. Now, sometimes the other person who sends it back may say supply of packing boxes, you have ordered, and then the other person when he is sending it he may refer to the actual supply. Now, in a job application situation it could be application for the post of program manager, it can be application for the post of assistant professor, application for the post of deputy manager and so on. So, this refers to actually the post that one is applying for. The next one, the next important element at least in this professional environment is attention line followed by salutation. What do we mean by attention line? And sometimes people do not actually realize the importance of this attention line and then they write sometimes without that particular attention. Now, what happens if you are writing to some big company, there are thousands of employees working in the company, and then even if you write just to the manager, there are about 10 managers dealing with 10 different departments, different sections. Now, which manager is the one to whom the letter should go and who is the person who should return the response? Now, to this person you call for the attention. Either you say if there is only one sales manager, you refer to the sales manager, or if you know the name of the person to whom the letter should go, you can say Mr. S.K. Gupta. This is the person who is the sales manager and at the same time the person who will actually look at the letter and respond to the letter. So, what is the advantage of this? Sometimes in big organizations what happens is letters go to the clerks, or even before it goes to the clerks there are peons who bring the letters, and there is a section in which all the letters are dispatched. The clerk is the one who decides to which department it should go, and then it goes to some department, and from there the salesperson or the manager or the CEO to whomever it should go, they again sort it out. Now, this sorting it out takes quite some time, and if you want to avoid that time and if you want to seek the direct attention of the person, it is very important you write the attention line. Now, after writing the attention line, as I said, you can use the designation of this person, or you can use the name of the person, or you can combine Mr. Ramesh Kumar, in charge water supply. Now, here there may be other in charges also. It is better you mention Mr. Ramesh Kumar, who is the in charge of water supply, to whom you want this letter to go and to the person to whom you are actually expecting eliciting a response. Now, the next important component element of a business letter as well as any other letter is the salutation. What do we mean by salutation? Just like when we meet somebody in the morning, we say good morning, hello, and then sometimes we say how are you, good evening. Now, these are all pleasant greetings just before beginning something. Now, in a professional environment and in any letter, it actually properly begins with a salutation before the body of the letter. Now, in terms of greeting, again the way you are greeting the person will indicate so many things, particularly the relationship, the hierarchy, whether you are a subordinate, other person is a higher authority, whether the relationship is between peer group, whether you are one among the equals. What is the relationship that the salutation will indicate? Now, honorable sir, somebody as superior as a justice, somebody like chief minister or a very important director of an organization, honorable sir. Same thing goes with respected sir, especially when a lower person is writing to a very dignified higher authority, respected sir. Now, in standard letters, if you need not give very high esteem in terms of salutation, the accepted salutation nowadays is dear sir, or if it is in plural form, if you have to address to 2-3 people, then it is dear sirs or dear madam or dear madams. Now, you need not think that when I write dear, it becomes something very endearing. There is actually nothing endearing about this salutation. It is as formal as saying respected sir or honorable sir, especially in a professional environment where you need not show excessive respect at the outset itself. So, there are environments where people would like to be called in terms of their names. So, where they may feel embarrassed if you write honorable sir. So, there and in general dear sir or dear madam is acceptable. Now, after that when a magazine editor writes to the reader or the subscriber, the person may say dear subscriber or dear reader and so on. Now, I am just going to tell you how we can slowly move from the formal respectful way of indicating a relationship to an informal personal way of indicating a relationship just by using the greeting. Look at this. Now, if you say my dear sir, the person you are giving respect, but at the same time the possessive my is indicating that the concerned person, maybe a teacher or a higher authority, is somewhat close to you. Now, look at the next level, dear Mr. Ashwin Kumar. Now, the person is somewhat known, equal, contemporary, dear Mr. Ashwin Kumar, the name is mentioned, but still it is formal. Look at the next one, dear Mr. Kumar. Now, again formal, full name is not mentioned, but still a certain element of informality has come here, maybe it is among the equals. Look at the next one, dear Mr. Ashwin. Now, instead of the second name, first name is used. Now, whenever first name is used, it is giving more proximity, more informality, the person is closer than the way the person is referred to by somebody as Mr. Kumar. Look at the next level, dear Ashwin. So, this is between friends, this is between brothers or between elder and younger who are close relatives or father and son. Now, look at next one, my dear Ashwin. Now, very close friends, intimate relationship, dearest Ashwin, again becoming very endearing and then showing utmost intimacy, my dearest Ashwin, and utmost informality. The relationship has taken so much things for granted, Ashwin, okay. There is no need to even say dear and all that. So, if you look at it starting from honorable sir and referring to somebody as my dearest Ashwin or just by Ashwin, you can see the difference that is shown in terms of salutation itself. Now, in formal use you can write the name dear before the name followed by a colon, dear Mr. Gupta. Now, the next important part is the body of the letter. Now, what do we have in the body of the letter? We can divide the message in the body of the letter into three parts, three main divisions. The first paragraph will be the introductory paragraph and it will have the statement of purpose. It will tell, for instance, I want to buy this from your company, I want to order this from your company, I am in need of this. The product that you sent has a particular problem, it is defective. The first line tells the statement of the purpose, why the letter is written. The middle paragraph details and gives other information surrounding the purpose. It tells why it was defective, where is the defect in that equipment, how it happened, was it there even while unpacking it and so on. It tells all the details, or the defect started in the first installation and so on. Now, this is followed by the final paragraph where there is a polite closing. Even if a person is angry, the person does not show anger here. He concludes with a note of hope, thinking that the product that was defective will be replaced. In terms of certain help that was rendered, the person actually expresses appreciation, says I very much appreciate your kind act and so on. Even sometimes this is said in advance, and or statement of follow up intentions, what should be done in future, suggestions are given, expected actions, asking for some kind of compensation and so on is indicated in the final paragraph. Generally these are the three main divisions, and as much as possible these divisions are kept separate, they are not linked with each other. Now towards the final part, generally nowadays it is suggested avoid the participial endings. What are participial endings? This adding ing form, hoping to receive a letter from you soon, hoping to get the reply immediately, expecting a favorable reply. This ing form nowadays it is considered to be very trite and it should be avoided as far as possible. Now grammatically speaking, if however you close your letter with this phrase, the present participle, using hoping to hear from you soon, what you should do is you should add I am, then it becomes grammatically correct as it is shown below. Hoping to hear from you soon, then it ends with either I remain yours sincerely or I am yours faithfully. Again see the link, I remain goes with sincerely, I am goes with yours faithfully, and if you use this at all, so you should remember to use I am or I remain, then only it becomes technically and grammatically correct and complete. Now let us look at the complementary clause towards the concluding part of the letter. What do we have in this complementary clause? What do we mean by this? Apart from the polite way of concluding the letter in the final paragraph, you also take a courteous departure, a courteous leave taking, a polite way of ending a letter. Now how do you do that? Once the body of the letter is over, you type this part giving 2 space below the last line of the body of the letter. Now the clause, complementary clause must agree with the salutation. If you remember, salutation is honorable sir, respectable sir, dear sir and all that. Now that should agree with the salutation. Now look at the salutation, I have put it on the left side and the complementary clause on the right side. If the salutation is sir, it is very formal. So here it is yours faithfully, respectfully, obediently. If the salutation is dear sir, madam, here again it is yours faithfully, truly. If it is dear Mr. Nigam, so it goes with yours sincerely. If it is dear reader, yours sincerely. If it is neutral and a widely accepted closing, then it is sincerely or cordially. Generally if you are somewhat doubtful, it is better to use sincerely. Now just to give you more tips, just if you remember yours sincerely, yours cordially, yours faithfully, most of the times you will be able to write a good complementary clause. But remember, you should not use this yours with apostrophe. Just like the previous error that I pointed out, comma after to, this apostrophe is equally sinful in professional business letter writing. This is indicating your is, not yours, not the possessive form of a person. So avoid using this apostrophe, yours sincerely, yours cordially or yours faithfully. Now the remaining last 2-3 components, the one important part of that is signature, the signed name of the writer. Now in this case, as I said at the beginning, compared to an email, this is very important because here the person gives the authenticity to the information that is carried in the letter. Only when it is signed, the information is becoming authentic. So in that sense, it is very important. It includes often the name, the title, especially if the name is likely to leave the reader in doubt, and the position if already not mentioned in the letterhead. Now let us look at some examples. Look at this, cordially, it can be Sheetal Singh. Now just below that the name is given with the title, Now, sometimes the person will also indicate whether the person is married or not by saying Mrs. or Ms. Now, if somebody is given a delegated authority by the power of attorney, look at this, like sincerely per pro Sharewell Industries. Now, per pro is indicating on behalf of the company, this person has signed Lashmi Deshpande, but she is indicating that she is married, Mrs. A very careful letter writer will look at this title, and then the person will be able to identify whether the person is married or not, and then the person uses this in the address in the letter that he is likely to send to this person. Last but not the least, the identification marks. Now, what do we mean by this? Although it is nowadays done away with, those days there were typists typing the letter. Now, in that case, in identification marks, sometimes the initials are typed at the end. So, in an office environment where there are 5 or 6 typists, it is easy for the manager or any other higher authority to identify who typed what. So, if you find something like this at the end, TRM LG, it is indicating somebody like TR Murali or somebody like Leela Gupta. So, you know that this is the person who is responsible for typing the letter. Now, if the officer's name is already there, so then it can be in the form of sometimes capital LG or small LG. It is indicating that this is the person who has again typed it. Now, enclosure. The enclosures are the attachment which is attached along with the letter. Simply you can refer to this as any documents which are attached to the letter, they are considered as enclosures. Now, if there is a single enclosure, you can indicate that by enclosure 1. If there are 2 enclosures, you can simply say enclosure 2, but sometimes if the document attached or important, they are specified. You cannot simply say that the 1 enclosure or 2 enclosure, you also need to mention the details. For example, enclosure 1 MOU dated 1st September 2010 is a very important enclosure. So, it is mentioned. The second one is a check was supposed to be sent along with this. So, SBI check number, the number is given and the date is given. So, this is again enclosure, and the final point, final element here just before we conclude is the copy notation. Now, this indicates the person who is receiving a courtesy, or sometimes it is also called as carbon copy, which is just abbreviated as CC. Sometimes it is also written as PC, indicating that it is a photocopy. Now, CC SK Khanna or PC Julie Andrews, or sometimes the full form copy 2 is written Mr. Sanjay Bhatia. In that case, a direct copy is sent. Sometimes simple C can also indicate that it is a copy. Now, just to conclude, in personal letters something called PS is written. The short form PS is indicating postscript. What does it mean? Literally it means afterthought, something that is written after. Now, sometimes people even write PPS, something was written, then some other thought came. So, afterthoughts are also written, but they are all done in personal letters, but it should be avoided in business letters. So, this a very last minor point, but one should also keep in mind that unlike in personal letters, you should not use postscript at all in business letter as well as in job application letters. Using it conveys the impression that the letter is very poorly planned. So, a professional letter is very well planned and it is executed in a very professional manner, so that the personality of the company or the person is revealed in it and it generates goodwill. So, just to conclude, in this lecture you learnt and understood the need for writing effective letters, especially in the age of internet, email, SMS and satellite communication. The basic elements of a business letter, this again was followed by 3 basic layouts: the standard, which is considered normal, and then the left and the right kind of layout. I suggested that you either go for the standard one or go for the left sided format, and finally I explained all the elements of business letter in detail. Hopefully next time when you are applying for a job, or next time when you are going to write a letter to a professional environment, these tips will be of great help, and then you will be able to not only create a goodwill, but also able to write a very effective letter that gets you a very favorable response. Now, the books that I have referred to, and then there are further references for you to refer to, is one by Bowie and the other one is by Rutherford. All are dealing with basic business communication, especially for the technologists, the engineers, and generally anybody is in the business environment. And then there is one book in the Indian context which is also quite popular. It is by R.C. Sharma and Krishna Mohan. It is also dealing with business correspondence and report writing, and thank you so much.